Football Manager is a hard game, and if you're one of those people with 10,000 hours that's about to say no it's not, then just try and remember what it was like when you first started playing. But is there a way to make Football Manager even harder? Yes, because we're all gluttons for punishment, and the moment we're not in pain, we desire that very pain again. Well, fortunately for you, Czar of Pain, I've compiled a list of the top 10 hardest saves in Football Manager, and number 4 is gonna blow your mind. I actually don't even remember what 4 is. Oh, that one was pretty cool. But number 10 is the classic no badges or playing experience to the Champions League title. Is this the 10th hardest possible save you can put together in Football Manager? No, but it is the hardest basic save that you can compile. This is when you're creating your manager at the beginning of a save. You select no playing experience and no coaching badges. It is the challenge that I took on Twitch this year, but I chose to increase the difficulty of my save, and fair warning, there are spoilers if you're watching this series on the Zealand Live channel. I increased that difficulty by winning the Champions League with Tottenham. You can choose to do that as well to make this even more difficult if you want. Wouldn't wish that on anybody, but seriously. The challenge of this is you aren't going to be able to get any good jobs at all, and you spend a lot of the early part of the save finding a club that is able to fund your coaching badges so that eventually you can be respected in a major locker room. You just have to work your way up from being, well, probably you right now. Look at all them 1s and 2s, baby. Hell of a coach. But don't worry, those attributes, they do change for your manager. They get better as you improve, except for adaptability. That's broken and stuff. Number 9. I had a couple of versions of this type of save, but I've settled on one that was pitched underneath a tweet I put out asking for submissions for this very list. And the most popular iterations seem to be just winning something with a team of strikers. Every position except goalkeeper. If you really want pain, include goalkeeper. Having an entire team of players that primarily play just one position is a serious way to challenge your ability to think outside the box. But when discussing this, something that everybody else seemed to fail to consider, your dynamics are gonna be a nightmare because you're just gonna have players popping up like this dude right here going, why don't you sign more center backs? And your locker room atmosphere, all that stuff is just gonna go spiraling downward because everybody thinks you've undersigned at every position. If you wanted to make the save a little easier, you could edit players' positions, even though they are ability-wise still a striker so that players don't get mad. But this isn't a list of the easiest saves in Football Manager, is it? No, this is a stupid hard challenge. It would be incredibly annoying, and if you pull it off, congratulations. Number 8, the Athletic Bilbao. This is, of course, a save that you can undertake with Athletic Bilbao or with any other team that you happen to set these artificial parameters for, but a team that has very strict geographical signing parameters. I've heard managers do it with PSG, and they can only sign players in Paris, all sorts of different iterations of this. But just to keep it focused, this is a save with Athletic Bilbao where you have to win the Champions League developing just players from your region. I, for one, have never had the patience for youth academy or region locked saves like this one. It takes a very long time to develop the kind of powerhouse that you're looking for. There's so many different things that play into it, and the most important one is finding consistent success and not just being able to wonder kid your way to championships. But what lands this as the 8th hardest save in the entire list is if you turn it up to max difficulty. You try and take Athletic Bilbao to the top reputation club in the world. If you think Football Manager is boring because you're so good at team building, this type of save would be the perfect one for you because it keeps you from just hoarding wonder kids and eventually building a super team. You have to build an actual program, maintain consistent success, and have a tactic that works, but like works with the players coming from your academy. Number 7. This is, of course, using one of those databases that gives you a 20-tier English league system. And like the previous save, it requires a lot of patience and determination to be able to get all the way to a Champions League title with a club that is not even essentially actually a Sunday league type team. You're starting with clubs that are well into the fully amateur section of the English ladder, and it requires a lot of discipline in team building and an understanding of when to switch gears to build your team all the way up to a Champions League winner from the 20th tier of England. Even if you have an absolutely unstoppable rise, this will still take you a quarter century at least to realize your ambition, which would make it, for a lot of people, the longest Football Manager save they've ever played. I've heard from one person that was trying this challenge that described it as mind-numbingly boring, because particularly when you're in the lower leagues, once you build a group of a couple of players that are good enough to just run through all the teams, you go through like 7 or 8 leagues on automatic. But it's also a save that, while a lot of people talk about it, and some in that way, very few people actually have the gumption to pull it off. Before we go any further, I'd like to give some honorable mentions out to a few of you that sent in your fabulous ideas that didn't quite make the list. First, be Manchester United, but start Anthony in every match. I'm not trying to torture people here. We're just trying to give them a hard save, man. Come on. We also had survive and win the war against Ragnar's sons as Northumbria in an 867 start, which pretty sure you're talking about the wrong game, but I love Crusader Kings, so I'll bite. Somebody also said, let's be honest, there aren't many hard saves which you wouldn't dominate, which true. I have no life. This is what I do. It wasn't nearly as big of a brag as I thought it would be. But my personal favorite, if you're me, Leal, apparently, which is the most Football Manager sentence I've ever heard. On to number 6, and that is the Octagon Challenge. You might have heard of the Hexagon Challenge, but that's not even hard enough to make this list. No, the Octagon Challenge is where this stuff gets beyond insane, because I'm talking about winning all 6 Champions Leagues, including the OFC Champions League, and winning the Club World Cup and the FIFA World Cup. That is the Octagon Challenge, all in one save. Sure, some of these can be easy to tick off in the OFC. You just go for like Auckland and then you're good. The Champions League in South America and Europe can get much more complicated. But even I have never won the World Cup in Football Manager. It only comes around every 4 years, and you're running out of time to do it because international management is not going to be an FM25, which I'm totally fine with. The difficulty is just going to keep going up from here. So if you really love pain, keep going. To number 5, the Hong Kong Challenge. This one's served up to you courtesy of the Hong Kong League, which is in Football Manager. There is a team in that league called the Hong Kong U23s. Now, that name is not weird. That team is exactly what the name would suggest. It is the Hong Kong U23s. Now, the esteemed Work the Space did a video about Hong Kong U23s and managing them in the Hong Kong League and how utterly miserable it is in the board culture of not signing non-Hong Kong players and so on and so forth. Well, win the Asian Champions League with them and you've completed the save. It's really that easy. This is a quintessential save where you virtually have no control over the types of players that you are bringing in. So you have to be able to cook up a tactic that is absolutely devastating and utilizes the players that you have available to you who are not going to be very good to get results anyways. A skill set that a lot of people that play Football Manager don't really have at all, because usually what we all do is build teams that are more talented than the teams we're playing against, and then we find ways to break them down. This is going to basically be the exact opposite challenge. So your first challenge will be to overcome the mighty likes of Iron Brew Rangers, which is a team in the Hong Kong League. Thank you for asking. The 4th hardest save in Football Manager, the Minnow World Cup. Now look, I'm not trying to make you do something that's literally impossible, which would be winning the World Cup with a team outside the top 150 in the world rankings. I'm just asking you to make it. Now, for the purposes of this save, I've classified minnows as anything beyond the top 150 in the world rankings, which means we're starting with Antigua and Barbuda and going all the way down to San Marino. It's 60 teams, the worst 60 national teams on the planet. The easiest route for this would be Oceania, because if you finish second in New Zealand, you get to go to the playoff, and then you just have to house your way through a couple of matches. If you really want to take this challenge on the fair way, you won't even play in Oceania. You will try and find a national team outside of Oceania, outside the top 150, that you can guide to a World Cup. It's pure tactics and team selection. Maybe you can find a team that has 1 or 2 stars you feel like your tactic is able to cater to, but it is a very, very, very difficult job. And another one that you're not going to be able to do on FM25 because international management is going to be removed at least for a year. So you got to take a shot at this one quickly. On the plus side, it's a save you can get done pretty quickly as a bit of procrastination. If you're managing just a national team, there's a lot of simulating and less matches to play. So maybe with all that procrastinating, you'll be able to get something done while trying to achieve this incredibly hard feat. Maybe Cuba, Andorra, Myanmar, Bermuda, South Sudan. Nah, I'm feeling Cambodia. Belize, maybe. Close it. Zealand, close it. The third hardest save in Football Manager is FC Vaduz. This is a save that has gone down in Football Manager lore because of one absurd quirk. Vaduz is the capital of Liechtenstein, a country of less than 40,000 people, but Vaduz plays in the Swiss league. In fact, every club in Liechtenstein plays in the Swiss league system because there is no league in Liechtenstein. There's just the Liechtensteiner Cup. Now, the winner of the Liechtensteiner Cup, which is basically always FC Vaduz because they're in the second division of the Swiss league, they were in the top division a couple of years ago. Well, that winner goes to the Conference League, and that is the highest European competition that a club from Liechtenstein can qualify for, because even if they win the Swiss Super League, they can't qualify for European competition out of the league in another country. So the challenge that makes this the third hardest save in Football Manager, well, that's simply to win the Champions League with FC Vaduz. But in order to do that, you have to win the Conference League, then win the Europa League, then win the Champions League, all in consecutive seasons, or you have to start all over again. Of course, all of this while maintaining somehow a team that's able to do that over the course of 3 entire freaking seasons. It is possible, but it is also absurd and frustrating, and your way to fight back against the UEFA bureaucracy that's holding good Liechtensteiner clubs down. The second hardest save on Football Manager is, hold on a second, who's that handsome hunk? I'd follow that guy on Instagram. Look at that, look at that right. Oh, he's serving it up. Oh my God. Man, I wish I was that guy. Wait a second. So easy to get distracted on social media these days. The actual second hardest save on Football Manager is winning the Coupe de France. Not that hard, right? But with a team not in France. Let me explain. You see, France still has a large number of overseas territories, whether it be Réunion, Guadeloupe, Martinique, French Guiana, and these territories actually have clubs in them that are all able to participate in the Coupe de France. I usually don't like recommending saves that require databases, but for this one, you would need to download a database for whatever one of these outlying, overseas territories you'd want to manage in, and then you'd have to build up the team in that territory to be able to go into the Coupe de France and win against the likes of PSG and everybody else. For reference, the farthest I can find that any one of these teams has ever made it in the Coupe de France is the round of 32, and that was only a couple of years ago. That was Club Franciscain. Right? Club Franciscain, you know them, I know them. They play in Martinique, obviously. Been a big fan for years. They lost 5-0 to Angers in the round of 32, though, so that was pretty short-lived. Obviously, managing in any of the leagues in any of the overseas territories for France is going to be incredibly difficult financially and to attract players, but the hardest part might be the absolutely ridiculous away day you have trying to go play in France, which in some of these cases is quite literally on the other side of the world. But if you could pull it off, or if it ever happens in real life, it would be one of the most amazing sports stories anybody's ever seen. And it would be one of the best moments you've ever had in a sports video game if you can do it. Who am I kidding? It would be the best moment, unless you achieve the hardest Football Manager save in the world ever, the San Marino Challenge. Obviously. But why is it so hard? Because even though Football Manager was talking about how there would be an adaptive youth rating, right? A youth rating that changed if you had success, it didn't really work the way that they were talking about it being implemented initially. A fact that led to a certain YouTube video being released. What it means, though, is that even if you start with the club in San Marino and you become the best team in Italy with the club in San Marino and you start winning Champions Leagues with that club, you are still not going to be able to boost the youth rating of San Marino high enough to produce the type of player expected to win the World Cup. I have legitimately never seen a fully proven achievement of winning the Champions League with a San Marinese club and winning the World Cup with San Marino. I've seen people claim that they've pulled it off, but I'm always skeptical of the editor because this one is so hard that it honestly, it kind of reaches the gray area of knowing whether it's possible or not. Win the Champions League with the San Marinese club in the Italian league and win the World Cup with San Marino because of the players you've managed to develop with that team. If you can do that, if you really are able to do that, you've completed Football Manager and you've beaten the hardest possible save that I can think of within the realm of theoretical possibility here. I mean, I'm Oppenheimer. I'm theorizing. I'm plugging all the things into the bomb, but I don't even know if it's possible to make it go off with just San Marinese players in there. But who knows? The national team did finally win a game. So you go ahead and take ASD Victor San Marino to the top of the sporting world and the San Marinese national team to the top of the sporting world. And then you better start making YouTube tutorials because I want to learn. If you want to take a crack at some weird saves that'll test your brain, there's a list of those. And I'll see you guys on stream. I hope you have a fabulous day full of not getting FM. Who am I kidding? It'll probably happen, but I hope it doesn't.